I'm Monica Garcia, President of the Los Angeles Board of Education, and welcome to Families Matter. Joining me today are my co-hosts, Maria Casillas, the Chief of School, Family, and Parent Community Services, and Board Member Nury Martinez. Our goal is to provide information so families can help their children graduate and stay safe in school. Today's topic is on issues related to child abuse. Our focus for this episode is to provide parents with the support they need. Joining us in a few minutes to discuss this issue will be Pia Escudero, the Director of School Mental Health, and Ailette Tom from the Crisis Counseling and Intervention Coordinator. But first, a chance for Maria, Nury, and I to talk about the latest regarding LAUSD and Family Parent Services. Ladies, we have heard a lot from our parents this last few months. Maria, what are you hearing on the front lines?
Well, as with most other units within the Los Angeles Unified School District, everyone is working very, very hard to assure our parents that their children are getting a quality education and that they have a role to play in that, and also that we are working with them, collaborating with them as partners to ensure that our schools are safe. All of us have been hearing about various incidences across the district, not just in one location, in several places. And while this is not new to anyone, we have all faced tragedies in our lives, and many tragedies along these lines have occurred before. However, this is within our family, this is within our schools, and we have taken a very proactive and I think a very strong stance in sending support to wherever it is needed. So we've been very, very busy along with other people, our superintendent and various different units that have responded to this crisis.
Yeah, well, just having had several parent meetings in some of my schools where some of the incidents have arisen, I have to tell you as a mom, a lot of our parents, the anger you feel is over a notification, the lack of notification process. We have policies and procedures to remove an individual when allegations are made, and we have policies and procedures to fire an individual when charges and criminal charges are made. But we don't have a policy and procedure to notify parents when an incident, an allegation has taken place out of one of our schools. So a lot of the anger that I feel from our parents is how soon can we notify them when an allegation has been brought forward, but furthermore when someone's been charged, where I think parents absolutely have the right to know what the charges are and why that person was removed from campus. So we're working on changing that and creating policy, very clear policy on a notification process for the district. But I also think we have to rebuild our trust with our parents. I think a lot of our parents, the questions that you get asked a lot is, are my children safe at this school?
Correct.
And so because the notification has not been a uniform process, I think some folks feel that, right. Is my child safe to go to school? And rightfully so. I know that as a mom, I think I have the right to know if something occurred in my child's classroom or in her school. So the trust issue is huge. Not only at the school in supporting our faculty and our parents, but in the school community itself. We need to I really believe that we need to rebuild that.
Right. And I think, trust is something that a parent doesn't build. They enter the school with trust. Right. It isn't like you have to start building trust. They come with their children and trust that we will do the best job. So I think among families, there is a great deal of confusion. I trusted you. There's a sense of betrayal. And I think that it will take some time. But what I want our audience to know, and what I want all of the families in Los Angeles Unified to know, is that we are working as I think no other district is working to ensure the safety of their children, and that's paramount. Now, I've talked in the last 2 weeks, I want to say to thousands of parents now, and I try to do two things: to assure them that first of all, we need them to continuously be involved. If the trust has been broken, the best way to build it is for them to be up close and personal with us, to view us, to observe our work very closely, and to talk with their children about it. Number one, we need to always, keep our eyes focused on the prize. And the prize is high school graduation and college. That's our goal. Obviously, we do this within a context where we can assure them that we're going to do this in a very safe environment for you and your children. So when that trust is broken along the way, we need to work to rebuild it, and we need to work with them to rebuild it, because we can't rebuild it alone. And that is really the challenge. We cannot rebuild this trust without family involvement.
That's right.
Yes, and we're going to hear more. We'll be right back with Pia Escudero and Ailet Tom.
Today is a celebration of Carlos Santana. We're going to dance a little bit. We have some mariachi. We have Little Kids Rock that Carlos really supports. We have some kids that are going to sing. So we wanted Carlos to understand that we're about community too. We're about everyone being able to celebrate him. So it should be a fun day.
Scott, tell me a little bit about Little Kids Rock involvement in the Carlos Santana Arts Academy.
Well, Little Kids Rock is an organization that basically provides training and curriculum to teachers. And then they were basically founded 10 years ago, and the Milagro Foundation and Carlos Santana stepped in and really helped promote their program and make it what it is today. And now we operate in 26 cities at about 80,000 students. And today we're going to see a couple of our teachers with their students performing for Carlos and for the foundation. And this school is a site where we're going to be holding all of our future training for teachers involved in helping these students learn some music education. Really helps them see where they can go with this program. They see someone that's very successful and they look up to him and really love his music and want to come out and be able to do it. And it really it drives the point home when they get to see some guy like Carlos Santana come here and support the education. They realize how important education is, not just for music, but for all things.
We talked about who we wanted our school to be named after, who is most like us. And we had a list of names, and his name came up, and we looked on the website at Milagro Foundation and looked at all the service, the philanthropic part of Carlos Santana. And we were so impressed with that. You know, we all love Carlos Santana's music. We all want to dance to Carlos Santana's music. I don't know anybody that doesn't like Maria Maria. But the big thing was, it wasn't just his music, it was the level of artistry, being the very best that he could be at his craft, coupled with the desire to give back. The desire to really give back to the community across the world for the betterment of mankind. That's a big deal. That's a really big thing for us. His life, his history, his story really reflects a lot of the community around here. Being an immigrant, coming from Mexico, really, really working hard and making a commitment to be something special, and then to turn around and give back to the community. I think that makes him the perfect role model, and it says to the kids, I can.
Welcome back to Families Matter. Joining us now are Pia Escudero, our Director of School Mental Health, and Ailette Tom, the Crisis Counseling and Intervention Coordinator. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
So let's be really clear. In 2012, like every other year, child abuse is not okay. Violence against children is not okay. And in a school setting, when an employee or any trusted person violates that trust, causing pain to children, it hurts a whole community. And LAUSD's job is, when we have a disclosure, when we have a report, we have to have a process to respond. We hope it never happens. It should never happen. It's never okay for it to happen, but when it does, we have to respond. Pia, can you tell us what is the district's first response, or how do we talk about that?
Yes, thanks, Monica. I think what's really important is that we don't investigate. We hear what a child has to say, and if it falls along the lines of a definition of child abuse or sexual abuse, our duty as personnel from the district is to report. And we report it to law enforcement, and we have procedures and DCFS, and they take
DCFS
up
is?
Department of Children and Family Services. So our task is not to investigate, not to question, not to go much deeper than get the disclosure of the child. And there's actually a hotline. It's an 800 number that staff at schools are mandated to call without a question, and we give the information, and then the authorities investigate and look further.
So everybody reports.
Everybody that works with children is mandated and has a training every year to report, and is trained on the procedure, and has to do that in order to be employed by the district. The teachers, for certificate, for our credentials, we're mandated reporters.
Mm-hmm. Everybody reports.
So
That's right.
with the recent incidents in some of our schools, when your team gets to the school and provides, immediate crisis counseling to the kids, what do you recommend, or how do you recommend the parents talk to their children about a crisis?
Well, one of the first things that we do with our training of our crisis counselors is we work on training all staff, all crisis response team members to use the model of psychological first aid. And it consists of 5 components. It's listen, protect, connect, model, and teach. And we really train this in a way where we tell everybody you don't have to be a mental health professional to use psychological first aid. It's much like putting a Band-Aid on a child, right? We could easily do that. When we do psychological first aid, the first component is really to listen, and to listen to children's verbal and nonverbal cues.
So what would be nonverbal cues?
Well,
I mean, you're listening.
Absolutely. So for little children, oftentimes they may not have the words to articulate what's going on in their lives, but they may draw it. A child who's typically happy or very active may be withdrawn, or may have maybe some physical complaints, right? Like their stomach hurts, or they're not hungry anymore, or they're having a hard time sleeping. Those are all things that a parent can very easily notice if something is going wrong.
That's what's important. Families, I think we know our family members, so when there's a sudden change in behavior, whether they're saying to you, sometimes especially children can't tell you what's going on, but that's an opportunity to find out, why aren't you sleeping well? What happened to your appetite? And
So let's say
asking
that
questions.
a parent does notice these things. I mean, they're just changes in their behavior, in their character, in their perspective, in their mood, if you will. And we are saying to the parent, well, if you notice these things, try to explore it a little bit more, then do they talk to the child a little bit more?
Well, I think what's important is remembering there's some questions that are yes and no answers. So as a parent, try to avoid a question that will get yes. Are you okay? Yes. So questions such as, how are you what happened today? What was a good thing that happened today? Or what was something that you didn't like that happened today? I don't think we have to necessarily investigate and pry, but find an opportunity to ask just general questions.
Explore the day a little bit more.
Right.
And with a child, maybe the day is about what you can recall, and maybe you can say, you know, has this occurred before that you felt like this? Is that something that a parent would use as a technique? I think parents need inquiry techniques.
Right.
We're so used to hearing from our children when we ask them, you know, how was your day today? And so many of our children just say, oh, it was fine, or nothing happened, or whatever. But this inquiry, you know, how do you ask questions so that they're more probing?
Definitely, and I think one of the things Pia said in terms of what happened today, we really want to look through a child's lens, through a trauma lens. And if you'll notice, if you asked somebody when they came home, what's wrong, people may get very defensive. Nothing's wrong with me. What's wrong with you? But if you ask the words, what happened, they may be more open to saying something. And I think there's a big shift in how we talk to one another, because it's usually easier to say, what's wrong? But people may get defensive, or they'll close themselves off. So really just asking questions, having that constant communication on a daily basis becomes very important, because that's when you begin to notice those changes with your children.
So these are all communication methods when a crisis had occurred at the child's school. But how do parents, are you talking to parents about how you just even talk about some of these really sensitive and delicate issues like child abuse and child abuse prevention? So what are some of the other techniques parents can use to communicate with their child and or pick up on these behavior changes and start asking questions? And
well, I think Maria made a great point in terms of saying that parents trust their children with us immediately. It's not something that they gain over time. And so I think one of the things that we want to encourage our children to do is to be able to identify adults that they can go to within the school and outside of school as well. Oftentimes we have parents that work 2 jobs, they're not home all the time. So you want to help children before a crisis happens, identify, you know, if you were in school and something happened, who would you trust to go to? And if they can't think of someone, you want to help them identify that person. Take them to school, introduce them to that counselor, or meet with the teacher and see if that's somebody that they can go to. And then do the same at home. Is there a neighbor you trust, aunt, uncle, grandparents, and so forth?
Absolutely, those are really important points to have a plan and communicate, but the constant communication is really important. And I think furthermore, having that hard conversation is key. So many times as parents we avoid talking about sexual parts and touches or things that many times as parents nobody talked to us about. So we don't have good modeling. It's like, oh, this is how my mother did it, so I'm going to tell my kids this better way. So sometimes it's the first time you're communicating a very difficult subject for some families to talk about, good touches, bad touches. And sometimes families talk about bathing suit touches. Nobody should touch you where bathing suits are. Or it's okay not to obey an adult who tells you to keep a secret. There's good secrets or bad secrets, but as a parent you can say, we don't have secrets in our family. So if someone's telling you a secret, I still want to know. So those are the kind of conversations. You hear some of the areas where predators are very wise. They seclude children. They use children that are vulnerable, that will believe other adults easily who don't have a support network. So I think as a parent, our challenge is to fortify children, make them resilient, that despite that sometimes there's an obstacle, find help, get help, talk to an adult, talk to me about it, and don't keep secrets. And if there's a touch you don't like, get some help with at the school and at home, because I think we're focusing today very much in the school site, but I'd like to say that sexual abuse is something that happens across the board in the world, across socioeconomic communities and across families. So it's something that is really very evident in our community. We just don't talk about it. So it's an opportunity to generalize the topic as well.
So in general, would you suggest to parents when their child is going to school preschool, kindergarten, you want to start saying, this is okay, secrets, who's the adult that you could talk to? Is that something from very...
From a very young age, you want to start talking to them about that. Start telling them that even when an adult tells you to do something that you feel is wrong, and we want to teach our children to trust their gut. Oftentimes, we're taught, oh, you're crazy, you know, you think you're scared for nothing. But we want to teach our children, if something feels funny, something feels wrong, that it's okay to say no to an adult, even if they are an adult, and we teach our children all the time to say, to listen to adults and follow the rules, knowing that most children are abused by people that they know. And so what's the next step for parents is when parents hear something that's devastating like this, is to really believe your child and let the child know that they did the right thing by saying something, that whatever happened to them was not their fault, that it was the fault of the adult that did this, and then follow that through by getting the right help for the child.
Do we provide that type of training to our parents at our early ed centers? I mean, do we do that as a district?
We've had an enormous amount of training available through the schools, through the parent centers, and even through my office. But I think when you take this type of training, you're doing it with a sense of anxiety that it could happen to your child. I think what has shifted just recently is this awareness that it did happen and that it still might be happening, and that we sort of thought it happened to other people. And we were protecting our children from the unknown, and here we have known persons close to our children's day schedule that are guilty of these things, or that the children believe might be in some way, not seeing them well, or not touching them well, or whatever it is. And I think that is the whole thing. For a child, I think it could be very confusing. Imagine when you go to school, I remember thinking every adult was right.
Yes.
How would I know at
Or you
5
can
years
trust
of
every
age?
adult, or you can,
Yeah, every adult had to be right. So you're almost letting children know that not every adult is 100% right. So this little gap in trust begins to build. It's that intuition. Yes. And that, I think, is what makes the conversation so difficult to have with very young children. You also don't want to lead children to believe that that they can just report anything simply because they feel like it. And so I think that would be the other end of an exaggerated kind of sense, So we've got to find balance in all of this. I think what is important is something that both of you have mentioned, and that is that you have to have a trusted adult in your home and someone in the school, someone outside. And sometimes our families are so stressed out with, a job, two jobs, two parents working, that they are isolated themselves. They don't have a trusted adult that they can speak to, and they are the ones that have to open the door for children to have access to a trusted adult. So I've learned something from this, and that is that we really need in Los Angeles, in our schools and in our families, to create a sense of community, that we cannot exist on our own, that we have to reach out to others through our churches, through community groups, through whatever social networks we can create to support our families. I think this is what small town USA is about, and we need to reinvent that in our own communities here.
And we also need to strengthen the laws to protect children in this state.
Oh, absolutely.
I think we have more laws to protect adults than we do children.
Yeah,
And
that
has to
is something
change.
that for elected
If we learn
officials
anything,
like you.
right? If we learn anything from the recent incidences, is that we need to change the law in California. We have to do more to protect kids. We're just not doing enough.
And we're hearing from all corners of the district. It is universal that all parents want their students to be safe. It is universal that all parents want any violation of that trust to have an immediate serious consequence. And it's universal that no parent wants to be left out on the information of when something happens at the school. So today we did hear you say, I have to have a relationship, a communication with my kid every day asking what happened, to have that be a natural routine. I have to talk about beforehand feeling safe and trusting an adult, and who at the school can I talk to, who in the neighborhood can I talk to. And you also said something about when we talk about child abuse, right, helping language, helping identify right and wrong, helping identify when you're comfortable, when you're not comfortable, touching, what's okay touching, what's not, and really trying to get this sense of trust yourself, right? And that's a difficult thing as when we talk about 5-year-olds to 18-year-olds. That's right. Right?
Absolutely. I think one of the other things is as parents begin having these conversations, and sadly they may hear something that they're not prepared to hear, is that one of the things we want parents to do, as well as teachers and staff and adults in children's lives, is to model calm behavior. That when they hear something that's devastating, that they don't fall apart, and they don't, because children follow that lead. And oftentimes when parents react in a very loud or angry way, children may feel like they did something wrong, when in fact it's just parents are parents and they love their children, and they may be angry, but how can we work with parents to react in a more calm way, a more optimistic way that really tells a child, this is a parent that's going to help me. Something that we've all been talking about are really the 3 core beliefs that we're all born with. One is the world is a safe place. The second is I can trust others. And the third is I am competent. And when an incident like this happens, those 3 core beliefs are shattered. The world doesn't feel safe anymore. They don't feel like they can trust people, and they don't feel like they're competent. And that, I think, really speaks to self-efficacy and community efficacy, building enough laws to protect children. And so we need to rebuild that again. We need to make it so that the world feels safe for children, and so that they feel they can trust others.
Yes. And I think, but it starts with the family, it starts with the individual, and the parents, the family, and the school community. As you said, it takes a
we all work
village.
together,
And I
yes.
think that that's what we have to promote, knowing that we can take care of whatever we need to take care of, and we will get it done.
And we're going to get there.
And we can bounce back.
And we want to just assure everyone that we are going to get there, that we will rebuild the trust and the confidence. And with that, ladies, thank you for being on the show. Our time is up. And thank you all for joining us on Families Matter. Please visit our websites, families.lausd.net and parentaccess.lausd.net. Your involvement makes all the difference for you and for your family. Now, on behalf of Monica, Nury, and our guests, we'll see you next month. And remember always that families do matter. Thank you.